If you are in a conflict with someone that you love right now and you haven't yet had a conversation about it with them, this video is for you. I'm going to give you some things to think about before you go into that conversation. I'm Stacy Rocklein, and I'm on a mission to eradicate loneliness. And we make ourselves lonely by miscommunications, by how we deal with conflict. This is just a natural part of our relationships to have little disputes. And the way we handle those is how we stay connected. And this whole channel is about eradicating loneliness. So make sure that you subscribe so you get notifications about these videos, and like and comment. I'd love to hear from you. So recently I had a conflict with a friend, and it was a text conversation where miscommunication happened. But in the process, we both ended up feeling attacked by the other person. And that became clear as the text conversation continued. So there's the conflict. Now, the first thing that I did afterwards that I'm very proud of, because what I used to do is just avoid any follow-up, was no, we needed to have a conversation about it. So do go in and try to repair your conflicts. What I used to do is just ignore it and try to get over it, but that created a wall between me and that person that person may never have even found out about. And they might have thought I was coming back for it, but I was not. Very conflict avoidant. So first of all, plan to have that conversation. And now I'll tell you some of the things that I do in the meantime, because we couldn't come back to this for a little while due to whatever, life and things that get in the way. And sometimes that's a good thing. If you know that you're going to come back to this conversation, then having a little bit of time to think about it can actually be really helpful. It's very helpful for me. So the first thing that I try to do is get out of the defensive position. This is really normal to have something happen and you feel attacked like I did, and then you get into a defensive position where, let me know if this sounds familiar. You have conversations in your head about it, how you defend your feelings, and you want to make the other person wrong, and every time you think about it, you just have this not a bad feeling in a way that you want to connect, but in a bad feeling in a way that you just feel wronged, right? That doesn't help being in a defensive position. It's normal, but I always am trying to see how fast I can get out of that. I know it's going to show up immediately, but how quickly can I move myself out of the defensive position? Because if I go into that conversation in a defensive way, I will not be open to the other person's side of the story. And that is really important, that we come in with the energy that we want mirrored back to us. So if I want them to be open to me, then I have to remain open to them. So I try to get out of the defensive position. And listen, I screw this up all the time. I get stuck there. I spin there. I spiral there. I, can't figure out a way to get out of it sometimes. It can go on for a long time. So the faster I can get myself out of the defensive position, the better. The second thing I do is try to look for what's mine to own. What can I hold myself accountable for in the situation? And if the other person's hurt, even if you're hurt, then something happened and you probably have some ownership to take over whatever unfolded in that exchange or in that experience. And conflict is never not never, but most of the time it's a little bit of both people. It might be a lot one person, but usually we've got something in there that we can own. And I find it really helpful to look for the ways that I need to hold myself accountable because of how I want to approach the conversation. So first, I know I'm going to have it. Second, I try to prepare myself for that conversation by letting down my defensive behaviors, by looking for my own accountability. And then I go into the conversation. And this is how I like to start it, because it just feels like we have the most beneficial, productive kind of exchange. And that is to say, I love you so much. Like anyone I'm in a conflict with that I am willing to sit down and have a conflict conversation with, I know I love them. So I love you so much is a great start because it helps us establish a connection again. So I love you so much, and then I apologize. I'm sorry for upsetting you. I'm sorry for hurting your feelings. If I know specifically what I've done, I'm sorry for that. Give the detail. It's easier to not go first. Like, I know that. It's way easier when the other person comes to us and says, I love you first, or comes to us and apologizes first, but someone has to go first. And I feel that if I am able to come in with, I love you and I'm sorry I upset you, it helps us connect enough to then have a conversation about the details of what happened. So now you're in the conversation and you try to work through what happened, and geez, so much is miscommunication often, especially in text message. But then in this particular case, we did something that isn't always necessary, but for us, we realized, okay, we've had 3 different miscommunications in a text conversation where people got hurt. So we have a pattern. What are we going to do to avoid this in the future? So if this is just a one-off or it's not a pattern, maybe you don't have to ask that question, although it's very beneficial in those situations too. But I love asking how we can avoid it next time. Like, what happened here that we can keep ourselves out of running into next time? Or what do we do when we're faced with it next time? So as we were talking about this, it was just kind of like, well, the next time anybody's feelings are starting to get hurt in a conversation, we need to immediately ask for clarification. Maybe get on the phone or do our communication in some other way instead of have an exchange and then have more hurt feelings that we have to come revisit again. So that is an awesome thing to ask in a conversation with someone that you really care about and that you're in a close relationship with. How do we fix this? How do we avoid this in the future? So if you're in conflict with somebody, number 1, have a conversation about it. Don't run away. Don't avoid. Number 2, take a connected stance by letting go of your defense mechanisms and seeking accountability for yourself for what you have done. There's probably something. Number 3, if you are dealing with a pattern that is creating conflict in your relationship with this person, ask the question, how will we avoid this in the future? How do we keep ourselves out of this mess? Because a lot of times it's patterns that we see where it's the same kind of conflict over and over and over. And that is an invitation. It's an opportunity to clean something up so that we have less and less conflict. Anyways, just wanted to share. It's not a good feeling to have just had a disagreement or a fight or disconnection with someone that you care about. And these are some of the ways that make me feel like I'm showing up as my best self in my relationships, because I have conflict too, and how I try to maintain my connection with people even during the repair process. And I always want to close the gap between hurt and repair, between disconnection and reconnection. And these are some of the ways to do that. Okay, like I said, make sure you subscribe to this channel and I will catch you next time.